As we continue our study of the Gospel of St. Mark, please read chapter 12 before we commence our journey with the parable of the tenants. Through this parable, Jesus intricately illustrates the narrative of a diligent man who carefully plants a vineyard. He doesn't just plant it, he builds a wall around it, digs a winepress in it, and constructs a watchtower, signifying his earnest expectations of a fruitful yield. But instead of tending to it himself, he rents it out to tenants, hoping they would look after his lives with as much care as he would. However, the tenants prove to be unworthy of his trust. When the time for harvest comes, instead of honoring the agreement and giving the owner his due share, they display blatant disrespect. They ruthlessly treat the owner's servants sent to collect the harvest with violence. They beat one, kill another, and stone a third. The disdain culminates when they take the audacious step of killing the owner's beloved son, whom the owner had sent with the hope that they would respect his authority. In this parable, the man represents God the Father, and the vineyard refers to God's people. The vine dressers are the leaders of the Jews entrusted to care for the people. Each servant sent by the owner stands for an Old Testament prophet who comes to call people back to God, while the beloved Son refers to Christ himself. When the Son is cast out of the vineyard to be killed, this is understood on two levels. Firstly, that Jesus was killed outside Jerusalem, and secondly, that Jesus was crucified by foreign soldiers, not by those of his own vineyard. The others who later received the vineyard are the Gentiles brought into the church. Now we find ourselves in the scene where Jesus partakes in a profound dialogue with the Pharisees and Herodians on the topic of paying taxes to Caesar. The Herodians were Jewish political supporters of the ruling house of Herod the Great and thus willing servants of Rome. Both the Pharisees and Herodians are groups known for their stringent religious observance and their political maneuvers, respectively. They approached Jesus with a question that is as much a trap as it is a test. They sought to corner him, to provoke him into a response that could be deemed contentious either by the Roman authorities or the Jewish public. Jesus, however, with his boundless wisdom, answers their question in a manner that leaves them speechless. "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's," he says. This reply is a masterstroke of diplomacy as he acknowledges the authority of both the earthly Caesar and the heavenly God, while subtly highlighting the distinct spheres of influence they hold. This dialogue holds significant implications, underpinning the message of the importance of fulfilling both our earthly duties towards our rulers, as represented by Caesar, and our heavenly obligations towards God. The distinction between things that are Caesar's and things that are God's does not imply the division of a believer's life into the secular and the sacred. Rather, God is Lord over all of life, including the secular. We do, however, fulfill governmental requirements that do not conflict with our first responsibility to God. Paying taxes and similar civil duties are not detrimental to holiness. As we progress, we encounter a critical exchange between Jesus and the Sadducees. The Sadducees represent landowners and other wealthy families in Jerusalem. They held many high offices in Israel, controlling the temple and the Sanhedrin. They differed from the Pharisees in that they were politically prudent and adapted to the presence of the Romans. The Sadducees interpreted the law even more rigidly than the Pharisees, and unlike them, rejected belief in angels and in the resurrection from the dead at the end of the age. The Sadducees completely disappeared after the destruction of Jerusalem. In an attempt to discredit Jesus, they posed an intricate hypothetical situation about a woman who consecutively marries 7 brothers, each passing away before she could bear them a child. Referencing the Jewish law of levirate marriage, they asked Jesus whose wife she would be in the resurrection. Jesus' response, however, transcends the materiality of their question. He states that in the resurrection we'll live like angels and will not partake in earthly practices like marriage. His response underscores the pivotal point that our earthly comprehension doesn't always correspond with the divine realities of heaven. The chapter delves deeper into a significant dialogue between Jesus and a scribe, a scholar of religious law. The scribe, with a quest for knowledge and understanding, poses a thought-provoking question to Jesus: "What is the greatest commandment?" In response, Jesus presents an answer that becomes a cornerstone of Christian teachings. He states, "The most significant commandment is to love God with all heart, all our soul, all our mind, and all our strength." He doesn't stop with our devotion to God. He further underscores the importance of love for fellow humans, stating, "And the second commandment is akin to the first, to love our neighbor as ourselves." This profound exchange is not just a narration of a dialogue, but a reinforcement of the central tenet of Christianity: love. It lays the foundation for the manifestation of love in the Christian faith. It emphasizes the importance of love towards God, manifested through worship, obedience, and surrender. Equally, it underscores necessity of love towards our neighbors, which is demonstrated through acts of kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. Thus, this exchange between Jesus and the scribe illuminates the essence of Christianity and its core value: love. At last, we arrive at the narrative of the needy widow who, despite her poverty, dares to give generously by placing 2 mites, the smallest of coins, into the temple treasury. A simple act that may seem ordinary but is laden with profound significance. The widow, existing in the harsh climate of financial hardship, has barely anything to her name. Yet she steps forward, offering what she does have: 2 minor coins that may not seem like much in the grand scheme of things, but to it is all she possesses. In the midst of this, Jesus, the compassionate observer, doesn't let this humble act go unnoticed. He acknowledges her noble deed, stating unambiguously that the widow, in her poverty, gave far more than those who were rich. This is an intriguing statement, considering that the rich undoubtedly gave more in absolute terms. However, Jesus' emphasis is on the relative sacrifice. The affluent gave out of their surplus, their wealth far exceeding what they donated. But this widow gave out of her poverty. Her gift, meager as it may seem, represented a far greater sacrifice, a testament to her faith and selflessness. This illuminates the profound teaching that true giving, the kind that makes a difference, is not about the gift's amount or grandeur, it's about the heart behind it. The widow's offering may seem small, but the spirit with which she gave was tremendous. It's the willingness to give, not from our abundance but out of our own need, that signifies true generosity. The widow's story teaches us that it's not the size of the gift that matters, but the size of the heart that gives it. Let us all memorize these verses together. Jesus answered him, "The first of all the commandments is, 'Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength.' This is the first commandment, and the second like it is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." Mark 12:29-31.